Hello, this is James, and welcome to Fractured Frontiers. Listen closely. Right now, as you watch this, the entire military, economic, and green future of the West is dependent on a few dozen minerals you've likely never thought about. Minerals with complicated names like neodymium, dysprosium, and terbium. They are called rare earth minerals, and the country that controls them, the country that truly holds the key, is China. This is not hyperbole. We are talking about the materials essential for the engines of the F-35 fighter jet, the guidance systems of the Virginia-class submarine, the motors in your Tesla, and the generators in every single modern wind turbine. If you strip away the politics, the treaties, and the bluster, you find a terrifying truth. The West is fundamentally dependent on its primary geopolitical rival for the very materials needed to defend itself and transition its economy. For decades, we made a colossal geopolitical mistake. We willingly outsourced the dirty, complex work of refining these materials to Beijing. Now, China controls over 90% of the world's heavy rare earth processing capacity. This is not a mere supply chain hiccup, it is an existential vulnerability, a national security crisis that has forced the United States and its allies into a series of frantic, desperate, high-stakes diplomatic deals, the latest of which involves Saudi Arabia and the trading of nuclear technology. This is the resource Cold War, and make no mistake, right now, the West is losing. This is how the conflict works, why it matters to your wallet, your military, and your future, and why the scramble for the world's rarest dirt is defining 21st century power. We need to start with the obvious question. What in the world are rare earth minerals? And why can't we just use something else? Rare earth minerals or elements, despite their name, aren't actually that rare in the Earth's crust. What is rare is finding them in concentrations that make mining and processing economically viable. More importantly, they possess unique magnetic, catalytic, and optical properties for which there is currently no full-scale substitute. They are the chemical backbone of modern technology. Let's break down the sheer, terrifying necessity of these materials. First, the war machine. For anyone in the US, the UK, or the EU, this is the most direct threat. Rare earths are the critical ingredient in virtually every advanced weapon system used by NATO. Take the F-35 Lightning II, the cornerstone of Western air superiority. A single F-35 contains over 900 pounds of rare earth materials. They are used in the heat-resistant permanent magnets inside the engine, in the electronic warfare systems, the radar, and the laser guidance systems. If China cuts the supply of just two elements, neodymium and dysprosium, F-35 production slows to a halt. The same applies to Aegis-class destroyers, precision-guided missiles, and even simple two-way radios used by every soldier. Without rare earths, the modern military literally goes dark. Second, the green transition. If the global north is serious about climate change, about the shift to net zero, it is entirely dependent on these minerals. The powerful generators in offshore wind turbines, some of the largest sources of green power, require massive amounts of these permanent magnets. And every single electric vehicle, EV motor, same story. You cannot have an EV revolution without these materials. If China leverages its chokehold, the green transition is not just slowed, it is fundamentally paused. Third, everyday life. Think about the powerful, tiny vibrators in your smartphone, the speakers, the hard drive in your computer, the flat-screen TV in your living room, all reliant on rare earth elements. This isn't just about military tech, it's about the quality of life and the fundamental economic competitiveness of the West. The fact is, we do not have an alternative at scale. We are trapped, and Beijing knows it. So how did we let this happen? It's a story of environmental regulation, globalization, and classic short-term thinking. In the 1980s and 1990s, the US was the world leader in rare earth mining, primarily at the Mountain Pass mine in California. But mining, and more importantly, processing rare earths is a notoriously dirty, environmentally destructive business. It generates a huge amount of toxic and radioactive waste. As environmental standards tightened in the West, China began to offer a simple, attractive alternative: lower costs, virtually no environmental regulation, and massive state subsidies. Western companies, driven by quarterly profits, took the deal. They shut down their refineries and shipped their expertise to China. This is the key point, and it's the most critical fracture in this resource Cold War. The problem is not mining, It's processing. Countries like the United States, Australia, and Canada have the rare earth mineral deposits in the ground. They have the mines. But extracting the raw ore is only step one. The real complex, expensive, and difficult work is the chemical separation and refining, taking the ore and turning it into the pure metal and oxides that military contractors and EV makers can actually use. China controls over 90% of this refining capacity, and critically, near 99% of the refining for heavy rare earths, which are the most important elements for high-performance military and electric vehicle motors. The West willingly gave up its strategic position for a short-term economic gain. And now, the bill has come due. We saw a clear demonstration of this weaponization back in 2010 when China temporarily restricted rare earth exports following a diplomatic dispute with Japan. Prices skyrocketed. Global industry panicked. It was a wake-up call that the West promptly forgot. Until now, every move China makes to tighten export controls, and they have done so recently with key elements, sends a tremor through Washington, London, and Brussels. This is economic warfare using geology. The West's response to this vulnerability is not simply to open new mines. It's to play a dangerous game of geopolitical poker. That brings us to one of the most significant and least understood recent diplomatic maneuvers, the US-Saudi Arabia rare earth gambit. The United States, realizing it needs a non-Chinese supply chain immediately, has been forced to look to new, unconventional partners. This is the goal of the Minerals Security Partnership, MSP, a US-led alliance to secure critical mineral supply chains globally. And this is where Saudi Arabia, the world's oil giant, enters the fray as a potential rare earth powerhouse. The recent flurry of agreements between Washington and Riyadh is a profound example of resource diplomacy. The core trade-off is this. The US will finalize a key civil nuclear cooperation agreement, often called a 123 agreement, allowing US companies to build nuclear reactors in the kingdom. This is sensitive technology involving critical non-proliferation safeguards, and the US has historically been reluctant to hand over the full package. But what is the US getting in return for this massive political concession? Access to what Saudi Arabia has discovered beneath its desert sands, potentially vast untapped reserves of rare earth minerals, as well as other critical minerals like copper and gold. The deal includes massive US and Western financing to help Saudi Arabia establish its own rare earth processing and refining capabilities. Think about the enormity of this trade. The US is essentially trading its most sensitive, proliferation-sensitive technology, nuclear power, for access to the materials it needs to build its next-generation jet fighters and its next generation of green energy. It signals exactly how strategically important rare earths are today. For Saudi Arabia, this is a double victory. They get a non-fossil fuel energy source for their ambitious Vision 2030, a new, massive revenue stream for the post-oil economy, and a deep strategic security partnership with the US to help them counterbalance the growing economic influence of China in the Middle East. It is a stunning, high-stakes trade that demonstrates the sheer desperation to break Beijing's chokehold. This resource Cold War is being fought not just in diplomatic backrooms and desert kingdoms, but also in the democratic allies of the West, especially in Australia and Canada. Australia is one of the world's most critical non-Chinese sources of these minerals. Canada is also rich in deposits. This makes the issue intensely relevant to their domestic economies and politics. Both nations are under immense pressure and are receiving massive investment and support from the US and the EU to ramp up their domestic mining and processing. For Australians and Canadians, this isn't just a geopolitics story. It's an economic opportunity of the century. They are positioning themselves as the trusted, democratic, and ethical sources of these materials. However, even with the support of the US-Australia framework and other joint initiatives, building a refinery is not like building a fast food franchise. It takes years, billions of dollars, and must adhere to environmental standards that China ignores. We have a massive multi-year supply gap that the Saudis, Canadians, and Australians are racing to fill. The clock is ticking, and China knows this. Every step the West takes toward independence is countered by Beijing, either through new export limits or by flooding the market to undercut the price of nascent Western competitors. It is a calculated war of attrition, one that China is perfectly positioned to win. The resource Cold War is not a fight over territory or ideology. It is a battle over the invisible, foundational materials of the future. It is a fight for who controls the next generation of defense, technology, and economic power. The most powerful militaries and most innovative economies in the world are currently building their future on a foundation that their chief geopolitical rival controls. That is the vulnerability. That is the crisis. The scramble is on. The US has made a daring, controversial gamble with Saudi Arabia. Australia and Canada are racing to become the world's trusted mineral suppliers. But the core question remains, a question that will define the next decade of geopolitics. Is it too late to break China's chokehold on the most strategically vital materials, the rare minerals on Earth, or has the West already sealed its own fate? Let me know in the comments. Should the US be trading sensitive nuclear technology for these rare minerals, or is that a risk too big to take? Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the geopolitics shaping our world. This is James signing off. Thank you for watching and take care out there.